And at this point, we shall take a moment to listen to our very first speaker in this three-day forum. Ladies and gentlemen, to talk about the role of technology in promoting GSED is a senior specialist in learning development and management office of the Southeast Asian Minister of Education, Organization Regional Center for Educational Innovation and Technology. He has also been the program manager and training coordinator of the Asian Institute of Management Development Resource Center, a provider of capacity building programs for the development community in the Asia Pacific region. He is also a professional lecturer for the Doctor of Public Administration and Master of Arts in Educational Management programs at Rizal Technological University. He completed his doctorate degree in education, major in educational administration in Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila, and is a recipient of graduate diploma in business training and development from Victoria University of Technology in Melbourne, Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, let us put our hands together and welcome Dr. Juan Robertino D. Macalde. Sir, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My greetings to the officials of the KITEP. My greetings also to the officials of the Department of Education, especially the Secretary and also Director Marge Ballesteros. Good morning, everyone. So let me share my screen to talk about the what you're seeing right now is the title actually, the role of technology in promoting global citizenship education. So before we talk about it, allow me to quote a noted person in history. Even before we talked about global citizenship education, he is already thinking about it actually. Mahatma Gandhi mentioned way back around 1940s, there are 7 things that will destroy us: wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, religion without sacrifice, politics without principle, science without humanity, and business without ethics. In the world that we're seeing right now, let me provide you with some definitions, so to speak. A global citizen is aware of the wider world and the role as a world citizen. They respect and value diversity. They understand how the world works. They are outraged by social injustice. They participate in the local and global community. They're willing to act to make the world a more equitable and sustainable place, and they take responsibility for their actions. On the other hand, I think everyone knows the definition anyway, but let me reiterate. Global citizenship education responds to global trends and challenges, specifically focusing on globally oriented knowledge, focusing on the values such as interconnectedness, culture sensitivity, and empathy, and skills such as relating to critical thinking, civic participation, and activism. On the other hand, there is a term very recently developed out of the word global citizenship education, or in a way of promoting global citizenship education. The word is digital citizenship. It refers to the norms of behavior about the use of technology. It also comprises the concepts of responsibility, rights, safety, and security. And at the same time, it also covers continuous development of norms of appropriate, responsible, and empowered technology use. Digital citizenship, according to OECD, requires the ability to meet complex demands by drawing on and mobilizing psychosocial resources, including skills and attitudes in a particular context. A study by Martinez Sainz and Malubari way back 2019 described global citizenship, the interconnection between global citizenship and digital citizenship education. As you can see, global citizenship covers areas on cultural awareness, racism, and others, while digital citizenship covers safety, privacy, security, and others. In between, the words rights, relationships, responsibilities, personal and social identities, and agency and engagement. To further discuss it, the key elements of global and or digital citizenship education covers the rights, which refers to the rights of individuals in the global and interconnected society. The relationship, which focuses on cooperation, collaboration, and conflict resolution, and others. Identities, focusing on cultural identity, religious diversity, and others. Agency, referring primarily on individual capacity to make autonomous decisions. And engagement, which encompasses the awareness of global issues and challenges. Duties, on the other hand, refers to the responsibilities of individuals in a global and interconnected society. Furthermore, according to the National Education Association, when our students are global citizens, they are more empathic, worldly, and understanding. But it's also important that we ourselves think as global citizens. In a typical world, in a typical face-to-face situation, when we have not yet experienced the pandemic, Richard King of Oxfam actually mentioned 10 tips to promote global citizenship in a classroom, primarily using powerful statistics, using the assembly time to reflect on the world around you, using the news as a platform, looking at food as an issue, as a content, something that's connected, well connected to everyone, learning about sustainable development goals, or in the past, learning about the Millennium Development Goals, is starting with issues on human rights, challenging perceptions about the world, using the learn, think, act process, and global dimensions, and not to reinvent the wheel as well. To continue, teaching global citizenship in a classroom particularly requires empowering students as leaders and teachers, incorporating global stories in the curriculum, organizing pen pals, applying for grants, especially for teachers or those the educators who are helping propagate the term global citizenship education. Taking field trips to know what's happening around the world, taking time to reflect on the world around us, volunteering, including lessons on sustainable development goals, and organizing International Week. One example actually is the United Nations Day or United Nations Week. Teaching culture through music and others. On the other hand, there's the pandemic. There's a classroom where into social distancing, we cannot even travel around, even in our respective countries. As described by UNESCO, the COVID-19 actually is the so-called a global crisis for teaching and learning. They did mention that 191 countries have closed all their schools, affecting about 1.5 billion students from pre-primary to tertiary education. COVID-19 as regards as an issue for school heads and teachers. Unfortunately, many of whom are not well-versed in technology, who are suddenly required to change the learning delivery modalities. They are confronted with several teaching, learning, and technological issues. And in the context of COVID-19 pandemic, Hughes and Jones actually call it the COVID-19 schooling. It is not homeschooling, it is also not distance learning, and neither is it online schooling. Let me repeat, the word is COVID-19 schooling. Online educational experiences can be viewed as a form of crisis management as well. The situation provided opportunity to recreate and reimagine a more expansive and experiential view of the critical literacy practices necessitated by digital citizenship in the post-COVID-19 world. So we're in e-learning. To be more specific, DepEd actually came up with a number of webinars even before the start of the opening of classes. During the opening of classes itself, they in fact came up with rules like screen time, since everyone is into Zoom or into Google Meet or other means, video conferencing. As you can see, kindergarten pupils maximum is about an hour, while grades 9 to 12 around 4 hours screen time. So let me just provide you with some insights on the difference between the typical learning in a online learning environment or in the COVID-19 schooling, so to speak. You won't have the luxury of physical dedicated classroom. You need to plan to turn on your camera almost anytime there are sessions. And you may need to use Zoom and other video conferencing tools using the formal chats, not our typical Facebook chat. We need to raise our hands. We need to understand expectations, and we need to connect with peers. To continue, what's happening around the world? This is the global overview of global internet use as far as early as the latest actually is April 2021. This was actually based on a study on digital citizenship education by Simeo Inotech. This was actually quoted in that study. Total number of global internet users are around 4.72 billion. And the percentage of users accessing the internet via mobile devices is about 92.8% of the 332 million. As far as January 2021 is concerned, daily time spent using the internet, as you can see, the Philippines ranks the first. Mobile internet users, on the other hand, covers around 4.38 billion people. Around April 2021, the next 3 billion unconnected populations. These are the people that have yet to connect the internet. Based on a similar study as mentioned earlier by Simeo Inotech, we did a comparison between Philippines, Singapore, and Vietnam as regards the internet users, social media users, and the mobile connections. As you can see, we always almost rank number 1 in most of these cases. On the other hand, experts, how do we go about using the technology to promote global citizenship education? In a similar study by Sainz and Barry, way back 2019, promotion usually covers the following by way of activities or by way of pedagogical strategies. Some of the activities are mentioned here, and then I will explain it each one. I will provide you with some examples later on. So as you can see, activities may vary, such as stories, virtual visual representations, timeliness, maps, quizzes and games, podcasts and videos, use of meetings, citizenship journalism, field trips. We can actually do field trips even without leaving our respective homes, and campaigns. These are just some of the examples, the sharing of the stories. The most possible way actually is by way of Storybird. These are applications. There's also the UNICEF Voices of Youth, the Dwarf Unlimited. You can also use Mural, even Google Docs and Microsoft Office. These visual representations can come up with by way of Prezi. I think you're familiar with Prezi, Canva, Padlet, and others. Timeliness, or the use of understanding the chronology of events. We can use Timeline.js, Smart Draw, Read, Think, and Write, and others. Even Tiki-Toki, as you can see. These are some of them are actually not familiar with us. Maps, we can always use Global Trek, Google My Maps, and VK Maps. Very recently, people are into gaming. So you can actually make use of Kahoots when you have your quizzes and games. Even Minecraft, and very recently, us in Simeo Inotech actually started using Mindtest. It's a freeware. For podcasts and videos, everyone knows TikTok. There's actually an upcoming or ongoing study on the use of TikTok for education. Perhaps by early next year, we'll be hearing about it. Again, for further information on the use of Skype, unfortunately, Skype Classroom used to have these several features. Unfortunately, as of December last year, they're no longer supporting the website. However, there are some still videos pertaining to podcasts and others through Skype Classroom. Everyone knows when we have meetings, we can use Skype, we can use Google Hangouts, we can use Empathico, we can use Debate, we can use Zoom. When we're looking at citizen journalism, we can make use of Upworthy, Taking It Global, and schooljournalism.org. If the intention is to do field trips, there is still, although it's no longer supported as of last year, but we can still access some of the videos using the Skype Classroom field trips and Google Map tracks. Again, without leaving our respective homes. As far as the campaign is concerned, the most possible, feasible way of thinking or telling people, okay, let's go into global citizenship education. Let's understand what global citizenship education is concerned. You can use Change.org and the world's largest lesson and others. These are all applications available in the internet, which we can access. Some are free, some you have to pay for it, but very minimal cost. But for education purposes, this would be very ideal for everyone, especially in promoting global citizenship education. Science and Barry actually came up with this. Those that I've discussed earlier, they've transformed it in a table format. When you talk about pedagogical strategies, you're looking at creation, circulation, connection, and collaboration. And the lower part, or the other hand, covers the activities that covers creation, circulation, and others. On the other hand, Francis Jim Toscano, we invited him as one of our speakers in our a course on Southeast Asian Teacher Competency Framework. He mentioned that the use of learning tools, that examples that I mentioned earlier, the applications. When using learning tools, teachers will need to consider the following. They should be aligned to the learning objective. They should lead to the development of higher order thinking skills. They should give the students the opportunity to collaborate. They should be accessible, and they should be appropriate in the current skills and abilities of the learners. Talking about this, I did mention you need to be consistent, and you have to make sure that these are appropriate information that you're giving to the target audience. So mainstreaming education for global citizenship mentioned. How do we create real global citizens, which is the object or the reason why we're doing global citizenship education? It is important first to reflect on the skills and competencies of a global citizen and then develop strategies to promote global citizenship education, laying out innovative approaches of how these strategies could be implemented at the national policy and school levels. As an example, looking at our beneficiaries, looking at our audience, mainstreaming GCE as mentioned, the learners should acquire or expected to acquire the knowledge and skills needed for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of culture and peace, non-violence, and others. These are the skills and competencies required of global citizens. Again, appropriateness of the tools. We can look at this situation like these are the competencies required or expected, non-cognitive skills that covers practical and technical cognitive core skills such as literacy, numeracy, information and communication technology, and financial literacy. You can also look at their character qualities such as curiosity, initiative, persistence, adaptability, leadership, which as UNESCO mentioned, we call it the traversal skills. On the other hand, you also need to look at their generation perhaps. Where do they belong? In our case, our students are part of primarily, majority actually are millennials and the Gen Z. There was a recent study on the millennials by an advertising company. Millennials are often called as using the word adulting, which primarily covers taking care of the bills, your younger siblings, processing your own documents in government offices, planning your own vacations, or having dinner with the parents of your significant others. They are more or less familiar with the term FOMO, or the fear of missing out. Gen Z, on the other hand, around 70% are very comfortable with mobile software applications. So again, if the intention is to own it by way of the GCE, we can always look at the applications. If we're looking at the Gen Z, they're looking to work not just for money, but for companies that are socially and environmentally responsible. Again, GCE focuses on this area. So as far as our campaign is concerned, we looked at the Gen Z as a majority. Very recently, there came a term as the Generation Alpha. They're very familiar with smartphones and tablets. They're born with iPhones and other applications. They don't know or can't imagine how life is without the gadgets. So again, our purpose, make use of the technology for this area of interest. So these are the lessons learned, combining our interest in global citizenship education and the very recent word global digital citizenship education. There's a need to redirect education of digital citizenship of the youth on digital literacy education, such as cyberbullying prevention. Digital citizenship should focus on practicing the appropriate use of internet resources, and it is important that students should be responsible enough in using technology in an ethical and legal manner. To continue some of the situations as well, these are notable practices in CMU and ETEC. Actually, we came up with the e-citizenship book or toolkit covers such things as internet addiction, cyberbullying, plagiarism, misinformation, and others. As far as the situation is concerned, as we are intending to make use of technology for promotion, but however, there's always a thing so-called so-called digital divide. As we continue in this changing digital environment, students, teachers, and school administrators need to address some pressing issues surrounding digital citizenship as well. Primarily, access inequalities among schools, students, and teachers, and the availability of the resources, especially the tools and equipments. These are recommendations based on a study by Science and Barry as far as global citizenship education promotion is concerned. It should be focused on pedagogical strategies rather than specific technologies. It should be focused on professional development of teachers as the propagators, as the main marketers of global citizenship education. We should connect with communities around the world without the need to travel. We should collaborate and partner with those who seek progress and the use and uptake of digital technologies in schools and with the young people. And we should think of relevant and meaningful uses rather than limiting the role of digital technology to information tools. To end my session, let me provide you with I hope you can hear them.
I think, sir, there is no audio.
Anyway, sorry about this. What you are seeing right now actually is a discussion among teachers of Southeast Asia, which we have invited to talk about their experiences in challenging times. We have invited teachers from Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. So with that, let me thank everyone. Thank you for the time. let me congratulations again to everyone for this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Macalde, for the insightful talk on the roles of technology in promoting global citizenship education.